Yep.
That's why we're not in Miami.
We scaled our company from 2 million to 10 million, from a team of 20 to 70. And I was consistently frustrated with the product and the quality of the service and the quality of the human relationships.
This guy is a straight baller.
I funded that operation from August 2022 all the way to December from my own pocket.
You have to go do it. If that is a dream relationship that you want to develop and you want to work with, you got to do it.
My mindset was different than him. For him was like, how can I make one clip out of this conversation? While my mindset before was like, how can I make 10 out of this conversation? Yep. It was like this mindset shift of like, how do I apply these principles of quality to the output principle that guide me to my success?
And she looked at me and she was like, what if that thing that you're creating and that message that you're sharing is actually inspiring them to be better and find better opportunities like you did? Dude, that moment there changed everything. Hey, I'm Luis.
And this is Luis.
And welcome to the Content is Profit Podcast.
In here, you're going to get the insights, accountability, and drive to create consistently and increase revenue.
You'll hear from top entrepreneurs, creators, and anything and everything you need to know about content. All this while having a good time.
The goal of this podcast is simple: entertain, educate, and turn your content into profit.
That is right.
Let's go.
This was sweet.
That was smooth.
I know I have my muscle memory here, but right now the thing is over there in the computer.
I know.
Anyways,
you can start slowly.
What are we talking about?
Slowly lower the volume. There we go.
It's okay. We'll leave it in here. But what are we talking about today, Fonz?
Today we're talking about creating content for some of the biggest entrepreneurial personalities.
Ooh.
And also, you know how this goes. We're just gonna dive into anything and everything.
I know. We put these titles and then the whole episode, goes a different way.
Yeah, at the end of the episode, it's like, all right, we're changing the hook.
Yeah. But anyways, if you guys are enjoying this episode, especially this new phase in this new location, by now you should know where we are.
That is true. If by now they know, we are at the new studio.
Yeah, baby, let's
Studio
go.
Podcast Suites here in Jacksonville, Florida.
I know.
Yeah.
So anyways,
so exciting. If you want to learn more about that, just back up like 2-3 episodes, listen to that one, and then you'll know the rest of the story.
That's right. And go ahead and share it with everybody that you love in every social media platform and any podcasting platform, because they want to say, I just stole Fonzi's line.
Yeah, that's fine. Tell me about this. How did we meet today's guest?
Oh man, well, you called me one day and you were like, I think I found our third brother. I'm like, Mario? I'm like, no, his name is, I'm not gonna say just yet, but we're kind of connected on the network side of things, on the content side of things. It was a connection from one of our guests, and we're like, there's no way we're gonna meet with this guy, and we're like, we've been like honored to have this conversation, but turns out there's a lot of personal connections in there that we do not know about.
Yeah. When I first jumped on a phone call with him, I was mind blown by the level of coincidences. Honestly, I was like, this is crazy. And then he told me about all the things he has been doing, all the challenges he's been through, all the accomplishments that he's managed to have in his personal life and business. And I was just mind blown. He is actually now the host of 0 to 100 in Spanish, right? Is like the first Spanish podcast in the HubSpot podcast network. This guy is a straight baller.
That's right.
Guys, please welcome the one and only Diego Vetencourt. What's up, bro?
What's up, man? Dude, that energy that you guys have, it's unmatched. Holy shit.
It's energy drinks. I'm not going to say the name because they haven't sponsored it yet.
They haven't sponsored it. Yeah, they don't deserve it.
Dude, I wish I had this dynamic. The chemistry is like, you can tell.
Hey, you're gonna develop that. You have a co-host now for your show, right? You guys are gonna develop that a long time. Trust me, the first couple episodes we were choking each other, killing each other in here. It wasn't as smooth as it is right now.
I love it. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah,
and it's such an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Diego, of course, we've we knew you before you knew us, in a sense, right? Like we've been following obviously the podcast from the network for a long time, and then we admire, you know, Parr and Sean and the My First Million podcast. And I remember they did this contest one day. It was like a $5,000 contest, and you know, for micro clipping. And we're like, oh my gosh, Tim, we have an emergency meeting. So we did the emergency meeting. We submitted the thing. We're like, all right, we got to create amazing content, and we lost the thing. And then suddenly
I didn't even put that together right now. What you're telling about?
Yeah, do you remember this?
Wait, did you win that? Did you win that thing?
No, Simran and Michael Sikan won that. They are future guys.
But it goes way back. But after that, they actually talked about you. I'm like, about this like guy that continued to like develop this relationship, right, and continue to deliver value to them. And you got a couple of shoutouts. I'm like, who is this Diego guy? We need to meet this guy. Like, it's awesome. Like, he speaks our same language of delivering value online and building trust and relationships and creating opportunities from that, right? So you became like this one guy that attracted all this attention and shout outs, and your business exploded, right? So do you want to share with us a little bit of like your story, like leading to that opportunity, and like what are some of the things that you did, and how has your life transformed since?
Well, first of all, my life changed because of Sam. No question about it. Like, there's no way to describe it other than it's all thanks to his distribution and reputation, I would say. But I've been doing content for 3 years, failing. I was a CMO at a business funding company, and I literally just used all of my money to create content, multiple things. Like, I did YouTube channel for NFTs. I did YouTube channels for video games. I paid some streamers and created like a mini network, and all of them failed until I found this kid on Fiverr. He just escaped Russia. His name is Danja. It's now my partner at Shortseed. But at the time, I just met him online, and I told him like, hey man, what if I pay you $1,000 per month and we do cool business podcast clips? Because I don't know if you guys know, but in Miami, the commute, it's like an hour long.
Yep. That's why we're not in Miami.
So I was going to this, I was going from Doral to Sunny Isles, which is like an hour long drive.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got home, I just sent him the favorite part of whatever podcast I heard. And then he clipped it and edited it. And then we put it in this theme page called Top Business Podcast. Everywhere, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. Like, we just wanted to build a brand. We were inspired by the guys that won the contest.
Yeah.
Our future guys, and we said like, we want to do one our future, but we don't have the resources to do it full time, so we'll just half-ass it. and
Optimize.
Then, yeah, exactly. So I just told him like, I have $1,000. I don't have anything else to spend on this. And then he said like, yeah, I'm down. And we started, and for some reason, in 3 months in, we had like 50 million views a month on like Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok together, not individually, but together. I would say the biggest success was Instagram. So I just decided I have this thing that I pursue people, just like the way that you approach me, FONZI. But like, if you don't reply to me, I'll reply to you every week, just saying something about it. Yep. And not like random shit. Like, for example, for Sam, it was like, hey man, this is working. Then it became like, hey motherfucker, you got 10 millions the last 3 weeks. Are you want to do this or no? Yeah. Okay, bitch, answer to me. If you don't do this, I'm gonna steal your content. I'm gonna do it for you. And then it was like that for like 2 months until one day he replied.
Wow. So, and for context, right, those listening, you know, Sam is one of the co-hosts of a podcast, My First Million, in part of our network, and they're a massive show, right? So they were looking for, you know, they were talking about a lot of clipping around that time, right? Like, how do we actually grow the podcast? How do we grow the clipping, right? And you started reaching out.
No. It was even more crazy than that. They already had team clipping. Yes. Yeah, they had the guys.
Yeah.
They had Michael and Simi, which are friends now, and like they're killers.
Yeah.
They sold their short form company to Morning Brew.
Yeah.
But at the time they were handling all of the hotspot short form media. But they were handling for the brands. But I noticed that Sam and Sean wasn't doing their own personal one. So I just did it for them personally.
Yes.
Like outside the brand name, it's like if I come to you and you guys are doing this podcast content, and then I come to FONZI and you, Luis, and I tell you like, hey, I'll do it for you guys on top of the podcast one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for some reason that one gained more traction than the podcast ones. And but mind you, we were doing it for free.
Yes.
So I funded that operation from August 2022 all the way to December from my own pocket. So it was just me and Danya was clipping and posting, and I was picking the clips that I like from Sam and then talking to Sam daily, making sure that the copy makes sense because he's a copywriter and I suck at copywriting.
Yep.
And then I even he made me pay for the course. He says like, you gotta buy this. And it helped. Actually, the moment I did that, he stopped saying anything about it. But anyway.
What course did he make you buy, right? I'm sure people are curious now. They're like, all right, I want to buy that course too.
His own. So part of the strategy, copy that. Copydat.com. Yeah, an awesome course. It's about copy work, but either way, like we wanted to focus on because we grew very fast. We grew from 5,000 people all the way to 50,000 people on his own personal brand. And we at one point we had 30 million views in total, and we were like, okay, how do we monetize this? So I A/B tested his copywriting course, his whatever. And I think at the time he was still building Hampton as a stealth startup. So he leveraged that opportunity to just create more networks and connections. And it was really nice to learn from him how to do that silently. And I was just part of that beginning process. Wow. And I don't know, I just funded it myself. I wasn't expecting anything in return, quite frankly. I was semi-comfortable in the bank. I had a 6-figure plus salary, but I was spending it all on this ideas, and I lost it all the time. So back in December, he just called me one day for the first time in 6 months working with this guy. And then he said are you ready for me to mention that you're going to do this? And I said yeah, fuck yeah, I'm ready. I wasn't at all. And the minute he put that tweet up, all my Calendly was booked from January 1st all the way to February 15, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every hour. And I didn't have anybody. So anyways, that was a learning curve. I started the hiring process was the hardest, I think, hiring the right candidates. But my partner, Danya, was he was part of the strategy from Andrew Tate back in 2022. And he was also part of this group of YouTubers called there's a guy called Iman Gatsi, which was following the same process of horizontal scaling brands. Yeah. And so Danya had a lot of access to underpaid kids, and we just said wait a minute, let's just pay them more. Yep. And coincidentally, a lot of them were Venezuelans and Argentinians and a lot of Latin America kids. So as I was onboarding every day, I was okay, we got 5 clients today. Okay, hire 2 people. And then next day was okay, we got 3. Okay, hire 1. Then 5. And then at the end of it all, we had 48 clients.
Yeah. Diego, I gotta stop you here 1 second. There's a lot to break it down. Yeah, a lot to unpack of what you said, right? And first of all, I think we gotta point out the value of a powerful partnership, right? You say you find, right, Vanya, I think that's his name, right? This Russian person that had the editing skills, right? And something that you mentioned on your notes is, I don't know how to edit. And it's your company, and that's part of the product that you're selling, right? Of course, you're selling much more than that, but the output is these videos. So you went and find this technical partner that you can leverage their skill, right? And you guys can grow together. And then he had the knowledge to help you scale when you guys had people coming in. Another thing that caught my attention was the fact that you said all these people have clips for their podcast, but not for their own personal brand. And I think that is a very important segment, especially if you're listening right now and you're thinking only on creating content for your business specific type of endeavors. Like, look at your personal side. And actually, I feel like a lot of people are more interested on the behind the scenes, right? Like, what's happening? How are you thinking on these things, right? And you creating topic on that, I feel like you're opening a whole new category for these entrepreneurs that, you know, want to go to market and want to reach a like way more, like a bigger audience. Now, the other thing that really caught my mind is the power of partnerships, right? And following up. Like, you went and were like, you know what? I'm going to relentlessly follow up with Sam until this guy answers. And you just kept going. You didn't hear anything about him. You just keep going. And guess what? Obviously, it paid off. But then the right partnership with him when he gave you a shout out, that just gave you, I don't know how many leads, but you were packed, right?
I think that has a name, Diego. So before you head out, that we call that table face, cara tabla. Say, like, you know where that comes from, right? In Venezuela, we have this table face movement that we've done, you know, for a long time, and how we launched the show, how we got into the network, how, you know, we launched the business, how we actually got this studio, like all these things we related to that action of like being proactive and going after, right? And you said something that really caught my attention. You're like, look, I think there's an opportunity here. There's zero expectations, right? But I'm still gonna be doing it because I don't know what's gonna come out. I know something positive is gonna come out of this, and it did for you, and it exploded, you know, your business and your relationship with your partner, right? So every time we have these conversations with people that might be hesitant to go after in a proactive way after their opportunities, we mentioned like this, you have to go do it. Like you might have to put some hours, you might have to put some investment, right? You might have to deliver a ton of value up front. But if that is a dream relationship that you want to develop and you want to work with, you gotta do it. So thank you for showing the way in this very specific example and showing a lot of people that it can actually be done, and it's not just us talking bullcrap. Yeah.
but it's not random or arbitrary.
Yes.
There's principles involved. Like I think you asked the right questions, Fonzie. But the way that I view it, it's like it's not only following up. Yes, the following up it's a valuable act. Yeah. But it's following up with value up front. I do this till this day. When I want to meet somebody, I was fortunate enough to work with Alex Lieberman on his ghostwriting agency. And I didn't know him, and I know a lot of people that had connections with him. But before I asked, I just sent him an email telling him everything that I could do for him every day. For every single day, I was just telling him like, hey, I can basically just create your systems, your processes. I can... and then for every single day, I was just putting the value up front. And same for Sam. It wasn't just like, I can do this. No, I was literally showing him, hey, I'm getting you millions of views here. Like, it wasn't just like saying that I'm going to do something. It was showing them every day. Like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it's like, it's not only the follow-up, it's like the value it's first. So how can I give value to somebody and just provide them with value up front?
How do you learn that, right? Because like it's not something that most people think is like the first thing or logical thing to do, right? Like we see it every single day. We get inundated with DMs of, you know, people promising stuff, but we have yet to receive like maybe 5 that with value first, right? It's really rare. So somebody taught you this. This is something that comes within you, right? How do you come across this principle and that you decided to take action on?
That's a good question. I think it's because I was frustrated with the industry that I was working at. I worked for unsecured finance for a long time. We scaled a company from 2 million to 10 million, from a team of 20 to 70. And I was consistently frustrated with the product and the quality of the service and the quality of the human relationships. And I was just like, I want to avoid that. And I want to be helpful to people on like everything that we're doing. So I think it came from that. There you were forced to do 200 outbounds per day. So it was like a heavy work, but it wasn't like, I wasn't proud of it. Now it was like, how can I do the same, be as insistent and persistent as possible, but then provide value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Last comment, I promise.
This is a problem of having a co-host, right? We start fighting on who's going to ask the questions.
But I just want to relate this because I had a similar experience when I was running fitness studios, right? It was in 200 outreach a day. It was about 40, but there were 40 calls that we had to do, plus whatever outreach, that came throughout the day. And that was like sales associate. That was not the managerial side. So we did a lot of outreach. And I was faced with a very similar thought than yours. Like how, and for our fitness studios, not that we can actually, we will invite him into the studio to do a free session, right? And then show the value in there. But during the outreach, that was the issue on the industry because we have certain guidelines, certain things that we got to do. And it was very hard to provide that value way up front without falling off the corporate guidelines that we had, right? So I was also very frustrated with something like that. And when we started our company, I landed in a very similar spot, right? We did prospect batches for I don't know how long, right? We would just pick people that we really want to work with, and we created the final product for them. We will send it. It happened with our guests. So very similar strategy, but it came out of that frustration. So you just explained a really massive shortcut for a lot of people that they don't have to go through all of that, right? They don't have to go through the frustration. They don't have to piss off the people that they're reaching out to because you have one, maybe two opportunities to change the perspective from them to you. So thank you for sharing that. And I relate so much that you don't have to go, if you're listening or watching right now, you don't have to go through the 200 a day negative outreaches, right? Just follow Diego's strategy, right? And hopefully that can get you some traction.
I would definitely still do the output, but the output will bring some value. So yes. For example, I run a short form agency. Before it was referral based and I've never done paid ads on this business. Yeah. It has been all word of mouth. But if I actually want to work with somebody, I would come with the videos up front and tell him hey, I want to work with you. Here's 10 videos. Tell me what you think. Are you open for a conversation? Yeah. It's just not saying, yep. It's if you're going to walk the walk, talk the talk, right?
Yes. Yeah, yes. Absolutely. Yeah. That actually kind of goes into the next question I wanted to ask you, which was, how can someone replicate that value first principle without the resources, right? And I'm saying this just maybe to kind of kickstart the creative process on people. And how can I deliver value to somebody if maybe I don't have an editor that can help me edit these clips? And it might be for a whole different video as well, right? And what you just mentioned resonated a lot with us because that's how we approach people as well, right? We have this platform, and for us, part of delivering value for the people that we want to work with is actually inviting them to the platform and helping them, expose them, giving them more exposure in the internet, in social media, etc. And what we used to do, we actually have Slack. This is, we need to pick it up with Slack here lately. But what we used to do with every single guest was we bring them to the show, had these awesome conversations, and then we would create clips specific for them with their branding. It didn't say at all that they were part of Content is Profit. It was just all branded specific for them, right? And then we would share that with them, hey guys, here we go, so you guys can share it, And all these people were these are awesome, right? Let's have a conversation. We want to learn more about what you do. So it goes hand in hand with what you're saying. But maybe, somebody that might not have those resources, a team behind it that can help them, right? And I would argue, sure, I'm sure they have the time and that's the main resource that they can leverage. But how can they start replicating that value first outreach?
I always talk to my friends because all I like about life is talking about business every single day. So this is a problem that a lot of friends have, which is I don't know how to find it. It's one offer, one avatar, one landing page. That's how would I define everything that you can do in this life, and specifically when you're starting, right? And that offer should be related to a skill that you personally can fulfill. Yep. In my case, I already had experience, so I had the capital and the resources to make it happen somehow, somewhere. But if I didn't have you really have to be self-accountable and look inwards and say, hey, what is it that I'm good at and where I can provide value to people. Whether that's sales or content, it doesn't matter. What matters is you're confident that you can help one person. Yeah. If you focus on helping one person and use that as a case study and then replicate that over and over again, then you have a business. But yeah, it's all a matter of that. I still don't know how to code, yet I lead engineers, right? But it's not a matter of the skill itself. It's how do you feel around that? How competent you feel with your fulfillment. Yeah. And I think it's very important to feel proud about what you're doing as well. Because if you are confident that you're going to get them results, then it doesn't matter if anything else doesn't matter. What matters is that relationship and the trust.
Yeah, 100%.
I love this. And I wrote here, if you're starting at one offer, 1 hour, one landing page. And I go back to when we started as BIZBROS. You know, we've been technically a business for almost 8 years now. And we were spinning our wheels the first 4, right? Like trying all these different things, from vinyl stickers to screen printing T-shirts to everything and anything a marketing agency could do without their resources, right? We will advertise ourselves as the anti-marketing agency. People will tell us what they were like angry about with their current marketing agency, and we were like, okay, we'll do it differently, right? And we went and sold that, and it got to a point where we had 8-9 different offers, and for us, I guess that was part of our path. And how we were able to identify was people asking more of content, right? Yeah. And then
we had zero identity, honestly, as a company at that point. It was mostly like, what do you hate about other marketing companies? Cool, we'll do it better, or we'll do it differently. That's it.
I think, Diego, one of my fears then was like, well, and I think for a lot of people now, it could be like, well, am I missing a lot of the market, right? I'm not talking to many people, or I'm not offering solutions for everybody. But what we learned, and I hope you guys do, and you'll see now, like 3 years later, what happens. Like, we narrow it down to just content production. And within content production, just the clips, right? Especially. And then that evolved into a little bit of producing the podcast as a case study to build relationships and sell our services. So then people were asking how we were doing that thing. So now we had those 2 things, and that evolved into now a physical location where we actually rent per hour, right? So opportunities will come and will evolve after you make that one decision and you deliver on the one thing that you promised to that one market, right? So for us, we went from like trying to offer the world to like the one offer, and then that one offer actually started to expand on it, right? It's not that we stopped doing that thing. It's just like because we built capacity and resources, we were now able to deliver more things, and it's been great. So I hope this also saves a lot of time for a lot of people that are trying to do these many things. Decide on that one thing.
I also would say that if you're torn about it, and I do consultations per week where I get paid to do this, and I had a friend that it's a great copywriter, but it's also a great marketeer. It's also, she has a lot of skills, and she's like being an employee all her life. And like, she has this same, like, she is us a few years ago, right? And what I told her was like, yes, create one landing page, one offer, one avatar, but why don't create 3 and A/B test it in the market and see where's the demand, see where's the actual feedback. So even if you are like spread around between multiple skills, what I would do is just narrow it down, but then try those 3 separately. Right now I'm doing that. Like, I have 2 agencies that don't overlap. One is very broad, one is very niche, but at the same time, I don't take just one bet. I'm always betting on different things all the time. And if I don't have the bandwidth or capacity, I just either delegate it or like make it happen somehow, somewhere. Yeah. But just like always betting in different things at the same time.
I'm gonna do a pop quiz for you, Fonzie.
Go ahead.
What was our best or most successful A/B test in the history of podcasting production for us?
Podcasting production?
For us, specifically for us.
I failed. What is it?
Dude. So, Diego,
I don't remember. I'm like,
the week that we decided to launch Content is Profit, we're like, okay.
Oh.
Now you remember?
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
That was 400 episodes ago. That's a while back.
So I remember like we had this client, he's like, you guys need to produce a podcast, right? And the way that we tested that out was like, well, our split now is like, do we do it in English or do we do it in Spanish? And we're like, well, why don't we do one in English and one in Spanish. So we will record Content is Profit in English from 4 to 5. And then we will record the second Spanish show called the Mass Live Show from 5 to 6. And we did this for the first 3 weeks. What happened is Content is Profit took off because most of our network was here in the United States in English. So it started to relate a lot of in the content, and it also was very niche compared to the Mass Live Show. And we're like, okay, this is the proof. Now we're going to Content is Profit because it's creating the relationships that is bringing the money to the bank. And then we kind of halted Mass Live Show. So same thing, if you want to produce something just like you, like incredible lessons, Diego, I mean, we had to do part 2 and part 3 for this because you keep dropping golden boulders.
Yeah. So
the same thing.
I'm gonna interrupt my brother here a little bit. You know, we're gonna get to something meaty out here. You know, and I want to go towards. We had a conversation where we were meeting each other right over the phone, and you told me that you heard this podcast, right? That it was Danny Miranda's episode with the guys from Nonsense Media. I think that's how they call their company. And you told me, dude, listen to this. This really helped me shift my mind about content, how I look at content and what I do with my clients, right? So obviously, you know, we're in Content's Profit, trying to help people create more content that turns into profit. And I'm curious, right? Like, what was it that you heard there? I heard the episode. I showed that part to my brother because I was like, this is genius. I think it's amazing. But I want to hear from you. What was that thing? What was shifted in you on how you approach content? And maybe for context, let's give also an image of how were you doing it before for your clients? And what are you doing now in the content side of things to help them, again, leverage what they're doing and reach a bigger audience?
I think it's funny because sometimes I take the suggestions of others and apply them immediately, but sometimes I'm a hypocrite and I don't take action immediately. So within that conversation, I feel like Henry and Dylan are the pillars of I would say the short form game, because they started way back before anybody had commoditized this game, and they had the opportunity to work with some really important people, and then arbitrage a bunch of animators with good writing. But I think that it's clear that for them, the quality of the product that they're putting out there is the primary guiding force. For me, for a while, it has always been about output first. So my mindset was different than him. For him was how can I make one clip out of this conversation? While my mindset before was how can I make 10 out of this conversation? Right? And it was this mindset shift of okay, how do I apply these principles of quality to the output principle that guide me to my success? So those are the two main takeaways for me. It's really take care of the quality that you're putting out there, because for a while, I can tell you, when you're scaling and you scale massively, you lose a lot of the quality. And you don't care about the output that you're putting out there. So that conversation for me was very helpful, because it teaches me that you don't need 100 videos to go viral. I think what's amazing about their offer, and quite frankly, it's something that I'm not able to replicate at all. I think that's why we're in separate niche, is that they can make 10 videos and the 10 videos will go viral. I need to make 100 videos and then 5 go viral.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good approach here. Before I share with you, I think that's a good approach that you share, right? I remember when I was starting my entrepreneurial journey, I think I might have actually still be driving Uber back in that time. I was listening to Andy Frisella, and I remember very clearly he was talking about reading. And he said something along the lines of are you that person that reads and just because you read it in a book or you heard it on a podcast, you just take it as if it's the truth? Or do you actually go and challenge those thoughts, right? And what you mentioned to me right now is hey, look, I respect these people and I heard these principles, but then at the same time, you challenge it with your own points of views, and then you ask yourself, okay, does this actually fit maybe in my framework on how I help people? Can I leverage parts of that? You look for ways to incorporate that in your thought and then pass that down to your clients. And I think that is super, super important, because that's when people fall into the game of let me replicate this. And like you said, I don't know anybody that can replicate the content from those two guys, right? their content is insane. Like their level of animation. I mean, and they come from that background. They come from a background. They used to work for a media studio that did animations and all the stuff. So of course they have a lot of knowledge on that sense. But I like how you were like, well, you know what? I actually am gonna take the principle of the hooks as well, right? Like, how can I still, with my output that I want to have, how can I now, learning from them, maximize, right, the value that I give in those 100 clips that I'm creating. Instead of creating 10 super high quality ones, I'm creating 100. But out of those 100, what is that knob that I can turn a little bit and increase the leverage and reach more people, right? And I think that point is key, because again, a lot of people just consume stuff and then they say, okay, this is my new truth. But I love how you look into that and you're like, whoa, look at that. We're, in total different fields, but there's things that I can learn in here and potentially apply and adapt into my own system.
Yeah. I think it's also the fact that you mentioned the other, like, one of the questions that you had before was like, okay, you don't know how to edit, but you pull this off. And I think it really comes down to everything that I do in my life. It's based on principles, values, and like mental frameworks that I respect consistently. And it comes down to the same. What can I learn from this? What do I agree with? What don't I agree with? So, for example, Henry and Dylan are amazing writers. We are not. Nobody in my team is a good writer, except on my new business, I partner up with my writers. So I'm always consistently analyzing what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses.
Yeah.
And if I have a weaknesses, I'm not going to double down on my weakness. I'm going to delegate somebody better than me on that weakness. And also it comes down to having common sense and good judgment, right? Because even though I don't know what's how to edit, I do know if it's a good video or not, right? Like if you take that approach of like having judgment on whether that's code, product, ideas, it doesn't matter. You have to set the standards for yourself and then find the people that can execute things that you can't, and then delegate that information in a way that is respectable to their work as well, and make them motivated to make something better.
Yeah.
Because if I tell a guy of my team like this video sucks, that's not gonna get not gonna get the work done. It's like, what do you think about this approach? What do you think about if we do it with this style? And I don't know how to do it in that style either. I just know that we need it differently, right?
Yeah, we're just working together as a team to try to find the solution. That's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I want to highlight something too, where there's like the difference between, there's a lot of people that think they need to be that creator, right? Like, and they need to develop that skill. And I think that's true to a point, right? To where you can learn the basics. You can be like, okay, what's the structure of the clips? What's the structure of the main video? So you can deliver those instructions to whoever you're hiring, right? And then also, so you have a little bit of information of who should I hire, right? Should you hire the expert that's going to take you from 0 to 100, or you take it from 0 to 50, depending on like the resources that you might have. But I personally feel very, very attached to reps and frequency, because that's what unlocked producing content for us, I think, right? Like how we were able to unlock the creation of content was a challenge that we did internally for 45 days. We created one live video for 45 days. The first time that we did it, we failed. We ended at day 15. Then we did it again. I was able to finish it. FONZI didn't. That's my claim to fame. And then we did it again a third time, right? But it was like the repetition of the creation process that really helped us get like an understanding of the flow and how we work, right? So a lot of the things, a lot of the people that might be, starting, maybe they're a small business, right? They're a solopreneur. They might not have the resources, right? It's like, how do we measure our own capacities, and how can we be frequent to the point that we can get enough feedback and also enough traction to our business so we can build the resources and then hire the people that can actually elevate that from, whatever, a 2, a 3 to a 7 to a 10, right? So I think there's a level depending on like where is your business. Like obviously, if you have very high resources, right, you're gonna be able to leverage the talent of people that have done it many, many times with proven success. But if you not have those resources, then you might have to be able to deliver those skills. And I personally think that frequency and repetition will help you get there, right? So it's like, how do you remove the friction on the production so you can do that and then connect that with your business? And I do believe that's true because that's what happened to us, right? It might not be the only way to do it, right? Like you're probably showing, but I personally feel very connected to frequency because of that reason.
I also, frequency, it's king. But there's like talent, right? Yeah. And sometimes you got to pay for that talent, as you said. Like I spin up a lot of products. I have this philosophy that I have to make one business per month at least. So I'm always doing something new. I work with a bunch of engineers and they are very expensive. So, but for the agency that we created, Artifact Labs, we needed a lot of like in-house team here in Miami. And like I had two options. I can either go the recruiting mode of like finding copywriters and like going through Indeed and LinkedIn. But I decided that I didn't have I wanted to bootstrap this business out of my own capital. So I didn't have the measure to pay them a proper salary, right? And then I said like, okay, I'm going to go to Miami Ad School directly and I'm going to come with a exercise. And I'm going to ask everybody. I introduced myself and I went to each of the students in the copywriting class. And then that way I got like their exercise back and I saw the one that I like and I told him like, listen, I'm not making any money with this business, but for every client that we close, I'm going to get you 5% upfront every time that we close and you're going to deal with it. Are you down with that? And then he is now our main writer and now he has a 6-figure salary thanks to like believing in that. But it's always about another thing that I would say before we run out of time, it's also about being very transparent with people and honest about what you want, what you expect of them, and what do they want, right? Because like even the Danja example, the Fiverr guy, I was paying him very low salary, but I was always very transparent with him of what we wanted. And like the crazy shit is that you gotta trust people. Like we started that business together, and the first month of every monthly processing in Stripe was given to him, so he received all the money. So I had to trust him blindly that he wasn't gonna take it. But it's also about having a long-term vision with people, not just like the transaction of the moment.
There's so much more I personally want to cover. I definitely want to go back also to your past. I want to see like what are the experiences that shape, today's Diego. I don't think we have time for that today, so we're definitely going to have to bring you back for a part 2.
Diego, you might have to come up to Jacksonville and we'll do a live recording.
Yes.
Actually, let's do that. Yeah. I'm down. Like,
all right.
I'm funny because I quit my 9-to-5 about 2 months ago. And my businesses were already successful, and now I found myself that I have more time that I can do with. So if you tell me that I'm gonna get to Jacksonville, like do that you just give me something to do.
Absolutely, let's do it. All right, next one is here in the studio. But I do want to ask. You work with big personalities, like we talked about it. All this conversation, creating content. And I know that you are pretty active on Twitter, but what about your content? Like, I'm curious, like, what are you thinking? Like, are you thinking on creating this short form content for yourself, right? For your own brand? Like, what have been your thoughts around that?
I think it needs to complement, because I've seen over and over people go straight to short form and doesn't have any other medium. So I think the way that I envision in all of this is, even the Twitter, it's not started yet. That has been me iterating. I finally hired somebody to basically, like, it's a studio of ghostwriters, but they don't ghostwrite for you. They teach you how to write yourself, your own brand and your story. And cool. They review your content and make you do exercise every day. So we're going to start that. But like, I think for me, it's like launching that podcast in Spanish, then creating content bilingual on my personal brand, and then doubling down on the Twitter and then ultimately funneling the like everything that is happening to either a service or maybe a newsletter. I don't know. I'm just doing it right now for the love of the game. I have that conflict between Spanish and English, but we'll see. Like you put me on the spot because I literally bought all of this equipment and like I'm just starting to get the balls and the confidence to do it, because for a while I was like, I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome. So I didn't feel confident to share anything. Now I kind of do, you know?
And dude, and I appreciate the honesty, you know, like for that person listening right now that might be, you know, they might be thinking, should I start publishing or not? Or maybe you started publishing and then you stop, right? Like, look at Diego right now. He just shared that he has worked with some of the biggest personalities out there, helping them creating content. So he definitely has a wealth of knowledge, and he's still here being honest and transparent, right? Like one of his values. And he's saying, you know, I'm still feel that imposter syndrome, right? Like I'm still working on that. So Diego, I appreciate the honesty, because it's not easy, right? Yeah. It's simple, but it's not easy.
And dude, let me tell you, you have everything you need.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not talking about the equipment. I'm talking about you, the knowledge, your story. Like, you have everything you need to freaking rock it and kill it. And we cannot wait to see what comes out of your platforms. Yeah. So we're going to be there rooting for you.
Coming from you, it means a lot, because you have the rep, you have the attitude, you have the... I don't know. I really don't take it for granted. So the fact that you give me that, it's more validation that I have to put myself out there. So I appreciate you for that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
We're gonna be in your DMs like, Diego, where's the content, dude? Where's the content?
I know. He's gonna stop responding to us.
That. Yeah, no. That's what I only want partnerships that make you accountable. Yeah. So that's all what life is about, especially at our age. I think like we're contemporary. I'm 32.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to spend the month on the days just thinking about who I'm going to drink or smoke. I just want to have like accountability partners. Perfect. You know what I mean?
Well, count on us. And, you know, we have a couple minutes left, and I really wanted to share this cool story that to me changed everything. I was managing a fitness studio, and I remember being in a very awesome state of mind inside of the studio. I really loved that environment. I loved my job at the time. And we were starting a brand at the time called Mass Life, right? And we were doing these challenges in the beach and games and different things. And we were like debating on publishing. Even back then, this is probably like 8 years ago, but way back. And I remember this one person came into the studio. She was a drop-in. She was not a member. She came from a different city. And she goes to her class. And then after her class, we start talking. And turns out she's a life coach. And she started asking me about all these questions about what I was doing. I was telling her the studio story. I was telling her the Mass Life, the new company. And she's like, oh my gosh, tell me more about that. And we're like, yeah, it's all about thinking in positive. It's all about, you know, being in the now and enjoying the moment, and just bring that positivity, like sharing good, positive stories. And it's like, awesome. Where are you sharing your stories? And I was like, nowhere. And she's like, but why? And she like legit just started unpacking this thing right there in the middle of the lobby in the studio. And it turned out to be that I had like this fear, because I was coming from Venezuela, and I was like living a life that I was really enjoying here in the United States. And I had this fear that if I was sharing all that, then somebody back home will see it and either don't like it or hate me for some reason. And that was the fear that she unpacked that day. I feel like the guilt, right? And she looked at me and she was like, what if that thing that you're creating and that message that you're sharing is actually inspiring them to be better and find better opportunities like you did? Dude, that moment there changed everything. As soon as
How long ago was that?
That was like 8 years ago ish. Like that was like the beginning of, you know, Orange Theory, my journey with them. And that changed everything. After that, every second that I doubted to like put my message out there, I remembered that specific moment. And it has helped me so much. It's like, what if this one thing that we're saying today is inspiring and moving somebody forward, even one person, that's okay.
Yeah, we know this guy. His name is Myron Golden. If you haven't heard about him, definitely look him up. He's incredible. He's so knowledgeable. He's one of the wisest man on earth, I bet. And he shares, you know, the problem is usually not the problem. The problem is usually the perspective towards the problem, right? And the perspective towards the problem we can always control. So it's that, right? Like you were thinking, what if I put this out there and then people are going to judge me or they're going to be resentful? Like, I feel guilty about having this awesome, life that I'm enjoying right now. And then she literally helped you change that perspective into, but what if actually you're just inspiring them? So I think that's a good challenge too. Sometimes when we find those challenges across our life, those difficult moments, is thinking about the perspective. Like, what perspective am I taking to this problem? Like, usually it's not that bad. Like, there are some problems in life that, like, those are going to extend and they might be extremely challenging, but you always have a choice on what perspective you look at them with, right? Yeah. And it's funny because actually this morning I was reading the Daily Stoic, and that was like today's message as well. It's like, it's not I have to, it's I get to, right? And he was giving examples like, what if today you're driving back home and your tire pop and now you're in the middle of the street? Well, instead of saying, I have to fix my car, well, no, what about you get to walk home? How cool is that? It's like,
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that because we do Ryan's content. And
that's awesome.
And it's funny that you consume all of this information and then sometimes you don't apply it for yourself. I'm a very emotional, anxious person. Yet I read and review Stoic content every day, and I value and respect people that are Stoic very much. Yeah. But then the hypocrisy of the human being, it's like, even though if you know it's bad for you, you still doesn't commit fully. So I appreciate you for the fact that story. It's very, very valuable because if it was 8 years ago, you literally went and implement everything. Right? Like you took action.
Yeah. It took time. It still took time, right? Like you said, like the human hypocrisy of, I know I'd internalize it, but at the same way, like, I feel like we all have that difficulty of changing our ways. Yeah. But, like we actually try to start a podcast before Content is Profit, and we recorded like 5 episodes and then we just drop it out and that's it. Yeah. And then eventually, like a year later, we started Content is Profit and now 400 episodes.
So Diego, dude, I mean, again, part 2 in Jacksonville. We have to make it happen.
Yep.
Is there anything else you want to add before we head out today? Dude, this was amazing. This was so good.
Thank you. I think like content shouldn't be everything. I think like content is profit, content is views, but content is just a layer to your business. And I'm repeating myself always that because a lot of the people that come to us expect us to do everything for them, and sometimes it really comes down to also your personality, your belief, your values, your charisma, because like at the beginning a lot of people were coming like, I want to help me like you helped Sam. Yeah, dude, but you don't have it. And then I was promising the same results, everything was measuring KPIs that didn't matter, and it was like, now I focus more on processes, values, systems, like, and making them understand that they can rely on me to offload their workload. But other than that, I kind of promise you to be famous. I kind of promise you to be viral. I kind of like, there's an element there that comes really from like looking within and saying like, who am I? What I want to show to the world. And sometimes people resonate with that and sometimes they don't, you know what I mean? So, and that's why content is so awesome, because everybody has the chance to offer something new. Yes. And I'm not doing it, but after this call, I just know that it's coming and I have to stop procrastinating and being a bitch about it.
Let's go. Dude, Diego, you just hit a point here. I'm making this kind of like as a bookmark for when I listen to this episode before we do the next one. But we definitely got to dive into that, what you just shared right now, which is like, hey, like sometimes it's the attractive character a lot of the times. Yes, the quality of the content, of course, it matters, and, the hooks and all this thing. But the attractive character is very, very important as well. And I would love to dive more into that on like maybe how we help people develop all that stuff. We got the set over there at the back.
I think it was the puppy. The puppy is
there's a puppy. I didn't see the puppy.
Yeah, I have a little dog. Yeah,
that's awesome. But I'm putting this as a bookmark for next episode when we can talk about all this stuff.
Dude, I gotta say I'm very thankful that you give me this chance to come, and I really like you too, very much so.
Hey, same, dude. The feeling is mutual, man. Yes. I can't wait to have you up here. Or if we go down to Miami, we'll definitely let you know. We got to hang out in person.
I know. Blaine was like, when are you guys coming down here? I'm like, oh, boy.
Blaine is also like one of my favorite persons ever.
Yeah.
So like,
Hey, maybe we'll do like a
now-
4-way podcast in
now
there.
we have a good excuse to go down there.
come in. We should record some content like for you guys outside as well. Like, I'll be happy to do it.
Awesome,
Appreciate it, man.
Dude, this was great. It made my Monday.
I know.
Yes. Okay, there we go. With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Contents Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at BIZBROS Co.
That is Ranif Diego here, help you move one step closer towards your goal. Please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. And don't forget to scroll down and hit all the links and connect with Diego. Let's go.
Bye, guys.